friends, it's Bernadette. I am the, for those of you who don't know me, which probably most of you don't, I am the creator and channel of the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck. It is a, it's the most comprehensive animal deck on the market. There are 100 animals in the main deck, 100 animal cards, and then another 49 different animals available in the expansion packs. And it comes, there's a reason that I'm going through all of this, starting out kind of with the marketing shtick, because it plays very heavily into this snake symbolism and meaning video that I'm making for you guys today, which is extensive and powerful, so powerful. I even had to wear my shaman stone today, and I rarely wear this stone. I just wear it, this, or amulet, you might call it. I only wear it during some of the most powerful times. And snake medicine, snake energy, snake as a spirit, totem, and power animal. It is big stuff. So back to the deck. It also has a 372-page all-color book that goes with it. And the reason that I mentioned that is if you are watching this video about snake energy and snake meanings, or however you came to this video, you're at a really major place of transformation in your life, because only people that are looking for real information about snakes, I've been doing metaphysical work for 30+ years, and based on the data of thousands and thousands of people, I can tell you that the people that are looking for information on snakes, like real information, not just like, you know, a meme on Facebook or something, or something, you know, some one little, you know, graphic on Pinterest, but looking for the real information, you're going through major change, or you're about to go through major change. So this video is a little bit long. It will probably be close to an hour. But if you're really serious, especially if you're a shamanic practitioner, or if you're a reader of any kind, if you're really serious about understanding snake energy, snake meaning, snake symbolism, snake, you know, medicine, watch this video. It is jam-packed full of information, and you can always come back to it, you know, time and again, because I'm going to cover all things zodiac, all things cultural, all things Kundalini and yoga, all things shamanic. And so here we go. All right. So one of the first things that I like to just be very, I mean, those of you that have followed me for any time know I'm just really, I'm a straightforward kind of gal. So I'm just going to be super straightforward. Snake energy, snake medicine, its symbolism, its meaning, it's about the ultimate transformation, death and rebirth. It is about sex, lots and lots and lots of it, in the ways that you've never heard of, that you wouldn't believe if you heard of, all the way down to a little bit mundane or ordinary or average. Not that there's really such a thing, but you get what I'm saying. And it's about psychic insight. It's about your third eye. It's about traveling literally to the blackest of black darkness, and being able to reconstruct your life, your heart, your spirit, your physical, your everything, literally bring it back to life, and then living in the light. So let's start off with the zodiac. So in the Chinese zodiac, snake is one of the 12 zodiac animals. And the story goes, is that the Jade Emperor held a race to see which animals should be in the 12 zodiac system that he created. And in 6th place comes the snake, because it was conserving its energy and wrapped itself around the leg of a horse and let the horse swim it across the river or the lake to get to where they were going. And just as they got there, the snake unwrapped itself and scurried, you know, slithered across the finish line, beating out the horse for 6th place. And so one of the things that you want to know is that in the Chinese zodiac system, the correspondences, you can take a look at the number 6 in numerology, see what kind of information you can get from that that resonates with you about snake. in theory, the snake's numerological, its real correspondence is the number 3, which is interesting because 3 is always the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or Maiden Mother Crone in the Wiccan traditions, and all kinds of other symbolism, you know, that goes along with the number 3, which is a really powerful number. Because if you take number 1, that's the number of creation, 2 is a multiplication, but then when you put 3 together in kind of a triangle, it creates that Holy Trinity. So take a look at that, and then across the board, snake is associated with the element of fire, which is that creativity and that just the spark of everything that's going to be hot and exciting and ignition and just, you know, now be clear, fire is cleansing because it can burn everything down to ashes, but like the phoenix, you can rise again from those ashes and be even better than you were before. So snake is associated with fire. Its direction is south. Its cardinal direction is south, which of course is also associated with fire. In the Chinese zodiac, it's associated with the color blue, but elsewhere, especially in the shamanic traditions and elsewhere, snake is very associated with reds and oranges, like the richest reds and oranges, because in the Indian tradition, snake is associated with the Kundalini. And if you don't know what the Kundalini is, my goodness, that's something I could go on and on and on and on and on about, but your Kundalini energy is your life force. It's your coiled energy that's in your body. It starts at your root chakra and literally goes kind of in a zigzaggy, snaky kind of pattern all the way up through your crown chakra and out. Because we don't, in theory, we don't just have 7 chakras. There are hundreds and hundreds of chakras way up above our crown chakra. And I won't get into that. But, you know, as a further side note, if you are looking, especially if you are looking anything about the subject of sexuality of any kind, snake is a really good helpmate for that, because it is so closely tied to the Kundalini, and Kundalini in yoga is about clearing out those chakras and getting them all in alignment and getting the muscles on each side to be perfectly symmetrical. And if you notice, when a snake moves, the sides are always very equal. It's not like a snake goes, you know, it's one side over here will be way out here and then this side will just be really short. If you've ever watched snakes move. Now, I grew up in the country and unfortunately had the great pleasure of it's a joke in my family, every single time I walked outside, especially if I walked outside in bare feet, which I always did, there'd be a snake waiting for me somewhere. They would drop out of the trees on my head, no joke. I would lean my hand up against like a shed or something, and there'd be something moving on my arm, and oh my God, all of a sudden there's a snake wrapped around me. And, you know, as a kid, I had, and I'm okay, well, I'm older than being a kid now. And up until just like last year, I had really the same kind of healthy respect or fear of snakes that a lot of people have, which is another reason this video goes so in depth. A snake is the animal that people across the world fear the most. It's like, even if you add up fear of spiders with fear of roaches, fear of sharks, fear of whatever animal people are afraid of, you add all those together, those numbers don't even come close to how many people are just terrified of snakes. And one of the most looked up things on the internet is dreams about snakes. And it's one of the top 3 common dreams that people share. Now, in Freudian psychology, they will tell you that dreams about snakes, again, we're back to the sexual component, because snake is very phallic looking. It's a phallic symbol, and, you know, people all across the world have all kinds of problems with their sex lives and what they think they like and what they don't like and what they're embarrassed to admit that they like, or, you know, their sexuality, you know, and fortunately the world is coming to a place where people don't have to be, you know, ashamed of those things. They don't have to keep them hidden. They don't have to try to, you know, behavior modify themselves or lead separate lives from their family and friends to fulfill themselves on that level. Thank goodness, because that is the root of so many issues in this world. I digress. We'll talk about that again one day. But also, with snakes being that symbol, and then being the ultimate death and regeneration symbol, they're also the biggest psychic symbol, which in the Chinese zodiac, a snake is considered the most psychic sign. And interestingly enough, in the zodiac, Western zodiac, the scorpion is considered the most psychic sign. And when you talk to, well, I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are like serious astrologers. And so when you talk to them, a lot of them think that just like with Aquarius, the water bearer, the Aquarian should have been a water sign because the waters of life flow out of her jug. They think that a snake would have been a much better choice for Scorpio than an actual scorpion. Don't know exactly how that would have worked out, but I see all of their points because they're just such unbelievably similar signs. So in any event, that's just a start of it. And in the Arc Tarot, the fear and the whole death and rebirth regeneration thing is exactly why I chose a snake to be the Tower card, because the Tower card is a truly terrifying card for some people. And it can be very literal. It can literally mean that your life is about to go to hell in a handbasket, and fire is going to erupt, and lightning bolts are going to come out of the sky, and it's going to be scary, and everything that you knew may die, and that can literally mean a physical death, scary but true, or it can be very metaphorical. But the good news of it is, just like when a snake sheds its skin, it emerges all brand new and shiny. So does your life. So do you. So moving on from its tarot connotation, the snake's tarot connotations, the snake's zodiac connotations, let's dive into some other symbolism and meaning, because also through all of this, you know, yeah, I started out with all the whoosh, wow, powerful kind of stuff, but also a snake is the animal that weaves itself. If you notice in the medical symbol, it's the caduceus. It's the Greek god of medicine. And so it's, God, what is that Greek god's name? Asclepius. I can never pronounce it. Look it up. It's the Greek god of medicine. And you've got the two snakes intertwined. So also, if you're looking for snake medicine and, you know, it's totem, spirit, power, animal meanings, all of the above, chances are you're either now a healer, whether you're like a holistic metaphysical healer, energy worker, light worker, or you're an acupuncturist, you know, Eastern medicine, Western medicine. And if you're not already, you're probably being called to do that, because snake is the ultimate symbol for healers for sure. So, and that can be whether you're working with, you know, two-legged people, four-legged people, or human people. And it's, if you are, and you have a fear of snakes, it could do you quite a bit of good in your practice to make friends with snake energy and really get to know it really for what it is, both everything that it does in the light, right? Everything that it does that makes you smile and makes you feel warm and makes you feel safe, but also a snake is a good helpmate when you want to not be afraid to peer into the shadows. Not even just the shadows, but the absolute darkest of dark, total blackout, like where you can't see your hand in front of your face. Because eradicating that fear, I mean, let's face it, what trips us all up more than anything? Fear, right? So if you can get rid of the fear of snakes, then going back to the whole Freudian thing about snake dreams and snakes being a phallic symbol, you know, the idea is that if you are having snake dreams, you've got some kind of block, fear, issues around masculine energy. And whether you're a male or you're a female, or you don't identify as either, you know, you identify as they, or whatever you identify as or don't, bottom line is there is masculine energy and there is feminine energy, and dreams about snakes can be really wide meaning, and they're a huge sign that you've got some deeply emotional, deeply like psychological, not like there's anything wrong with you. And be clear, I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on TV, I'm not a medical professional of any kind. Anything that I talk to you about is metaphysical in nature, spiritual in nature, and that's it, right? Hasn't been tested by the FDA, nothing. Okay, so I'll do a completely separate video about snake dreams, because that's a 4-hour video right there. I won't bore you guys for 4 hours, I promise. But it is so, there's so many possibilities with a snake dream that it has to be a separate video. So, okay, let's go back and talk about if snakes have slithered into your consciousness. If you're, you know, obviously you're watching this video, you're searching this out. We've talked about some of the things that are, you know, very obviously happening for you or are about to happen. So one of the things that it's important to know about snake energy is that snakes are the ultimate grounded energy. Think about it. Yes, they go into trees, but mostly they're gliding along the earth. And snakes can't hear. They feel everything through vibration. Everything psychically is a vibration. Everything in the world that we live in, is made up of an energetic vibration. So when you want to stay grounded, but you also want to develop your third eye, your psychic senses, snake energy is a great helpmate for that. The other thing that snake is really good for as a spirit totem and power animal is that you can get hyper focused, because snakes move one direction. Well, they can move side to side, but that's only because they're going forward. Snakes are physically incapable of going backwards. So when you want to keep your eye on the prize, snake energy is great energy for that, because of how forward moving they are. When you want to really up your channeling practice, or your shamanic journeying practices, even your astral dreaming practices, it is snakes. If you've never seen it, it's kind of a little creepy, I can't lie. But when snakes start to shed their skin, they get this film across their eyes. And so it looks like they're in a really altered state of consciousness, and they probably are. But just that sheer watching them go through that, watching what it takes for a snake to shed, understanding why they shed their skin and come out new, is a really integral part of working with a snake medicine and energy. And I would encourage you that before you go run willy-nilly out into the world and start asking snake to come to you, or to come to you in a stronger way than it might already have done, that you are clear that you're prepared for that. Because when you start inviting that kind of power into your professional life, your personal life, it can cause changes that you are completely unaware of, and it can be very uncomfortable. It can be painful, and then on the other side of that, it can be just the most beautiful thing that you could ever possibly dream of. I've had one business go to hell in a handbasket not through really, I mean, you know, listen, everybody's got a responsibility about something in a situation, right? But and that business didn't have to go to hell in a handbasket. It could have easily stayed afloat. I just didn't feel like staying and fighting the fight. So to outside eyes, it looks like I packed up shop and I went home, which is actually not at all what happened. But the devastation of having something that you've worked decades to build be ripped apart in a matter of a month or two, due to other people's avarice and jealousy and just sheer mean-spiritedness, short-sightedness, lack of intelligence and confidence, and just all those things that can lead people to act like damn fools. It's very painful, as you might imagine. I'm making this video now during the pandemic, the COVID virus pandemic, and I'm just, my God, the people around the world that they've lost their jobs and they're having to build an entirely new paradigm about how to feed their families and keep a roof over their head. And this is not just in the United States, this is all across the world. It is the time of the tower where everything is falling apart. Not for everybody, not everybody is experiencing it like that, but just to show you a little more visual, as if, you know, being afraid of snakes is not enough. But in the traditional Rider-Waite tarot, that's the visual of the tower. You know, the thing is on fire. There are lightning bolts coming out of the sky. People are jumping off the tower for their lives. You know, they're going to plummet to their death. Again, metaphorically, sometimes it's very literal. But it's scary unless you're prepared, and snake energy can prepare you for that. So when a tumultuous time comes and catches you unexpectedly, you can call that snake energy in to give you the power to keep yourself very grounded and go at a very even pace. So you might be moving to and fro, but you're still moving forward. You might be going very slowly. You may need to stop. You may need to shed your skin. Okay, all of those things are possible, but the personal growth that you can experience by working with snake energy, and if you can get a client to be able to hear you and receive snake energy, holy guacamole, what you can do for them, what snake can do for them, is really epic, epic stuff. So, because of that shedding, some things you can ask yourself if snakes have come to you in a meditation, in a dream. And I'll talk in a second about the difference between snake as a spirit animal, a totem animal, and a power animal. Or maybe you already have been asking yourself these questions and are looking for the animal, you know, wisdom, the animal ally to bring to you to help you work through this. But it's all about outmoded, old ways of thinking and doing things that are no longer serving your purpose, and probably haven't served your purpose for a very long time. But you've either been afraid to move forward, didn't know how to move forward, and snake can help you with that. I mean, when you think about how many different kinds of snakes there are in the world, you know, thousands of different kinds. Do you need to call on cobra energy? Do you need to call on garden snake energy? Do you need to call on python energy? Rat snakes. My favorite are pit vipers, not because they're kind animals, but I think they're among the most beautiful, unusual animals. Bush and pit vipers, they come in these brilliant colors and their little eyebrows and their faces. I mean, you know, they look like somebody that you'd love to, you know, spend time with, but they're not. They're wildly poisonous and wildly dangerous. And anacondas, and, you know, down to even little pygmy rattlers and corals, and those are kind of more dangerous ones. And then there's black racers that we have here in Florida. They're indigos. They're the most gorgeous color. They don't do anybody any harm. They're just the most amazing, amazing reptiles. Says the person who you know, again, up until last year, and I have Mystic Jungle to thank for this. You'll see a picture of me and their yellow ball python. Oh my gosh, I'd have to watch the video again. Her name just slipped right out of my head. But up until then, and if you're interested in animal communication, let me just tell you, that was a lesson like no other animal lesson I've ever had, ever. Because you know, everybody's, I think, has a pretty strong suit of animals that they're able to communicate with, which I would go out on a limb and guess, I have no proof of this, but I would guess would be mammals, more, you know, easier than anything, especially the domesticated animals, you know, the horses and cows and pigs and goats and dogs and cats and that kind of thing. It's a little harder to get feedback from, oh, say, a goldfish, or, oh, say, you know, a manta ray, or a dolphin, and you know, insects. What's a roach going to tell you except psychically? So you've got to be really sure that you are, you know, one with that roach or the fly, or, you know, even birds. I mean, birds of different kinds communicate in their own way, but, you know, really, you've got to be confident in what you're getting and be very clear that you have a clear channel for the animal communication when you're communicating with those, say, a hawk or an eagle or an emu or, you know, a flamingo, for God's sake. So I just really never thought of myself as a reptile communicator at all. It wasn't anything that anybody had ever called me about before. I'd never done a reading on a reptile. The only thing that I ever had to do with a reptile psychically in animal communication was I was giving a class one time, and I'm talking yak, 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 yak. And I said, did anybody else see that? And a whole classroom full of students looked at me and said, no, what'd you see? And I said, you guys didn't see that snake slither right across right in front of me and then go out in a burst of light? No. And I said, well, as you guys know, I get visions. And I said, the snake is telling me that somebody in the room, once upon a time, he was your snake. You had a funny snake. He was known as a comic, your funny snake. And every single person in the room, like 26 or 27 people, nope, not us. And of course, when you're a teacher and you're not getting it right, or on the money, on the money, on the money, students sit there and think, and I'm paying you for this. So fortunately, I've been doing this long enough. I stuck to my guns. I'm like, I'm telling you now, somebody in this room had a snake, and it was a comic. It was a funny snake. Next week, girl comes back in. She raises her hand at the first of class. She says, before we get started, I said, you're the snake person, aren't you? She goes, I can't even believe I sat here and didn't think of it. She said, we had a python that we named Monty Python. Hello, Monty Python. And she said, and the poor thing had a muscular, the reason we had it was it had a muscular problem. And sometimes when it would be climbing up its tree in its cage, it would just lose control and flop back on its back because it had a muscle problem. And she said it was, you know, my kids used to laugh at it. And so she said, sometimes it was funny and we feel really bad about it. She said, but I had the comic, the literal comic snake, and he was kind of funny to us. So that was really the only psychic thing that I'd ever had go on with a reptile. Well, then when I went to Mystic Jungle, I promised myself that with their help, I would try to get over my fear of snakes. So they wrapped this giant 80-pound yellow ball python. They just drape it on my shoulders. And I didn't freeze like I thought I would. And I didn't, because I didn't want to hurt the animal. I didn't want to freak out and, you know, flip this poor 80-pound snake off of me and hurt it. And fortunately, it was cold outside. So the snake was moving really slowly anyway. But as I was standing there, very slowly, even without my knowing, I happened to look over, and now I'm looking right in this snake's face. I couldn't help myself. All I could do was stare, because in my heart, I could feel the quickening that I feel when I'm doing any kind of reading, but in particular animal communication and mediumship work. and I could feel the message starting to come through, and I looked over to my right because the guy that wrangles their snakes over there, y'all, this guy truly has a relationship with reptiles, in particular snakes. And I have to say, for years and years and years, I've always judged those kind of people as being, you know, maybe a little lefter of center than the rest of us. I apologize to every snake wrangler, reptile lover out there. It's just not a vibration, energetic vibration level. Not that there are levels, but plane that I vibrate on. But now I understand that you do. And I think I understand why. I mean, you know, listen, I understand why people do what they do. It's because that's what they do. So, but this snake said to me that she was very sorry that he would be leaving, and that he's been so good to her, and she loves him so much. Well, you should have seen the look on that guy's face, because he doesn't believe in any of this psychic shamanic. He thinks it's all bullshit. He's very nice about it. He wasn't vocal about it. And I didn't even know that until after the fact, talking to him after the fact. But it choked this guy up to know that that snake really loved him and really appreciated everything he's done, because absent her being in the wild, where I'm telling you now, reptiles prefer to be. All reptiles. None of them want to be in cages. None of them. Now, you could argue differently. I have gotten different messages from other animals that I was shocked as an entire field of cow manure to find out, because what is my tagline, everybody? Stay wild. What do I call you guys? The wild ones. Death for me is to be trapped. Death for me is to just be trapped. I don't like to be trapped. I will do anything not to be trapped, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's not a place that I can exist. I've got to have my freedom, or there's no reason for me to live. That's not metaphorical. That's literal. So but from her, I was told, no, snakes, no. We hate it here. We hate, as good as they are to us, as comfortable as it may be for a while, we like to be in the wild. Anyway, the minute I was able to communicate with that snake in a way that was real, which I got the evidence of, I got the feedback from the client, or he wasn't a client, but the guy standing there that doesn't even believe in this stuff, it changed my everything that I personally thought or felt about snakes. So when you are looking to work with snake energy, understand that those old, outmoded ways of thinking and doing, they're going to go by the wayside if you really allow snake in, especially if you're doing any kind of kundalini work to clear out your chakras, to heal your chakras, to activate them. You know, any kind of chakra work that you're doing, you call it kundalini energy, you could end up having some pretty mystical but amazing renewal and rebirth changes come into you. So all of that said, let's talk about snake as a spirit animal. Okay, so if you haven't watched the video, the difference between spirit, totem, and power animals, please do, because they're different. Now, in cultures across the world, the terms are interchangeable, but how that culture looks at a spirit animal, or what they use its energy and medicine for, is very different from culture to culture. In what the animal allies, the animal spirit guides downloaded into me, is the system to help you better learn how to work with its energies. A spirit animal is the animal that you call during your hour of need. Now, that can be consciously or unconsciously. You can call out to the animal spirit world subconsciously without even knowing that you've done it, for that animal ally or animal allies, because you can have more than one, that will show up and help guide you through, give, you know, whatever situation that you're in, that you're trying to find a resolution for, you know, that you're trying to heal, that you're trying to get to the other side of. Because, you know, it was one of the presidents, I think, that said, or one of our military leaders that said, if you're in hell, you know, if you're going through hell, keep going. And that's, I think that's a great piece of advice that a snake can give. If you're going through hell, keep going. Eventually you'll find your way out. That, you know, you'll enter into a completely different realm, a completely different universe. But if you need support, if you need healing, if you need inspiration, you know, all of those things, and you're just not sure where to turn, then calling out to the animal spirit world will ensure that your spirit animal shows up. Because let me tell you something. If I had a nickel for every person that has said, I have meditated, I have journaled, I have done affirmations, and I'm just not having any animals show up to me, I'm telling you now, the way I tell people when they're like, and I prayed for my dad who died, my mom, my grandma, my dog, my cat, my bird, my whatever, to send me signs to appear to me, I'm telling you they do. You just may not recognize it as that at that moment, but if you will keep your, instead of constantly saying, it's not happening, they didn't come, because they're standing on the other side going, did you see this? Do you remember this? Do you know when you smelled this, or you heard this, or you passed this off as just a coincidence? The 900 times that it happened, yeah, that's them, y'all, trying to get a hold of you. And, you know, one of the reasons, because I've had a number of people go, why would you put 100 cards in a deck and then make 49 more available? Because there are millions of animals in this world, insects, fish, birds, invertebrates, amphibians, reptiles. I'll never be able to make enough cards. And that doesn't even count the mythological or fantasy animals that can show up to you. Oh, which, by the way, let me just say this. Don't be freaked out when you go into a spirit, you know, you're calling on your spirit animal and you get some kind of like half serpent, half, you know, I don't know, tsetse fly or billy goat or something, or the snake is part of it and there are like 2 or 3 other animals in it. Don't think that you're losing your mind. Don't think that the animal spirit world has forsaken you. It hasn't. There's a big message in the, you know, the morphed animals, or I call them the combo animals, right? But throughout mythology and, you know, all kinds of myth, legend that's passed down generation to generation, there are all kinds of animals that can show up as your, you know, your spirit guide. But when they show up, it's really important that you give time for the message, the story to unfold. Because let's say that you are, and I see this a lot, you guys, I'm like a triple Scorpio. Yes, Scorpio is the most sexual sign in the zodiac, and for me, with good reason. Oh, I'm kidding. Is my face red? You know, again, snakes are the most associated with anything sexual, in particularly anything having to do with anything phallic, masculine energy. But good Lord of mercy, the snake stuff that goes on when people come to readings about their relationships, it's never ending. It's always been, you know, I would say easily 90 to 95% of the readings, something sexual shows up when it comes to relationship kinds of things. So when snake shows up, here are some things to notice. What type of snake is it? If you don't know off the top of your head, try to keep a mental snapshot of that snake or snakes so that you can start looking at snake pictures later on and find the kind of snake. What color is the snake? I've had people get hot pink snakes, like Hello Kitty has shown up or something, right? And I've had people get rainbow snakes, which, of course, rainbow serpent is a big part of the Aboriginal culture. So, I mean, I see rainbow serpents show up all the time for both myself and healers especially. All of my friends that do, you know, woo-woo healing of some kind, they have a really close relationship with the rainbow serpent. And you can look more of that up. But You know, take note of, do you sense that when the animal showed up to you, the snake showed up to you? Was it morning? Was it noon? Was it evening? Was it dead middle of the night? Was it hot? Was it cold? Was it a moderate temperature? What else did you see around it? Do you happen maybe to know what direction the snake was traveling from or to? Was it traveling from the east to go to the west? Was it traveling from the north to go to the east? What direction was it traveling? You know, these are some kinds of things that you can ask yourself, either during a meditation, because you can ask the snake. If a snake shows up to you as your spirit animal during a spirit animal meditation, then you're just going to have a dialogue with the snake. You can ask the snake anything you want, it's going to answer. And then you can be part of Slytherin and, you know, speak. What is the language that Harry and all the rest of Slytherin speak? Oh my God. I've seen Harry Potter 9 billion times and I can't remember. I don't remember. Anyway, you're probably throwing things at the computer right now going, how do you not know that? But you can speak to the snake psychically. That's a form of animal communication. But what happens if you're not in a meditation and all of a sudden you're just like seeing snakes everywhere? They're crossing your path, whether in a song, you're seeing statues, you're seeing people with shirts on them. You know, there's a big thing going on right now. People are really buying a lot of the "Don't Tread on Me" signs, you know, for the rebellion, for, you know, the patriots to stand up against the government, this and that and the other thing. And why do you think a snake is on there? And I know there are historical reasons for it, but for those of us that are into symbolism, it's about transformation and change. The time to change is now. So whether you're seeing figurines, whether you are, you know, snakes are really big in the Egyptian culture. You might be studying the Egyptian culture right now. However you're seeing them, it's important that if they're coming to you as signs in that way, that you stop and you take a moment and maybe jot down or try to remember the color, the time of day, what day of the week is it, what month is it, how many snakes were there? Was there one snake? Well, that's number one in symbolism, which is interesting because that's the number of creation, right? And as we talked about, the snake is also the number of creation because of its connection, or it's the symbol of creation because of its connection to the fire element, which is the whole sacral chakra thing, which is where all of your creativity comes from. But it also, or your solar plexus chakra, and it also can be tied to the sacral chakra. Anyway, without going down the whole chakra thing, because this is about snakes. But again, all of these ways of thinking, all of these myths, all of these legends, all the symbolism, all the meaning, all the stories, no matter what culture, they all mean the same thing and come together at some point. You to get the very deepest understanding of snake as a spirit totem power animal, a shamanic healing tool, medicine, there are a million names for it. Understanding all of these different components can be very, very helpful. So the other thing is when, let's say that maybe you're just exhausted and you're just really at the end of your last, you're on the rope that's already frayed, and you just surrender. The last animal most people think is going to show up as a snake. They're looking for a warm, cuddly bunny, or, a bear cub, something sweet that they can hold to their heart and they can hug, a kitty, a puppy, that just seems to be adding insult to injury when a snake shows up. But when you want to do real healing and you really are at the end of your last knot on your frayed rope, a snake is exactly who you want to show up, because it's your sign. You're going to be okay. You are going to rise again from the ashes, and you are going to be okay. And snake has the power and the energy and the wisdom to help you get there. Now, let's say that you have a scary snake show up and try to bite you. Well, okay. But this also has to do with your totem and power animal as well. So your totem animal is the animal who you are. Now that starts with your zodiac sign. That's the very first spirit, totem, and power animal you ever come in contact with is yourself. Because all zodiac systems, I mean, that I know of, I think except for the Indian systems, I don't think they have an animal base. I don't know too much about them. I very personally know them. But Native American, Chinese, Mayan, Aztec, Western, they all have animals with the exception of Libra and Gemini, although Gemini are the twins, they're humans, hence spirit animals. I'm of an absolute belief that humans can be a spirit, totem, and power animal. Absolute belief, period, end of story. We're animals. At the end of the day, our classification is animales. We are animals. So, you know, okay. So those are your first totem animals, who you are. But that's who you are in this lifetime. In other lifetimes, you know, I'm a triple Scorpio in this lifetime. In another lifetime, I might have been a Capricorn, God forbid, or I might have been an Aquarian or a Pisces or whatever. Chances are we've been all of them at some point. But then there are the animals that just speak to you. I jokingly refer to myself as Bernadette because of my obsession, my true obsession with bears. Just obsessed. And I am so bear-like. It's crazy. I mean, look at me. What animal do I look most like? Grrr. I look like a bear. So I think I've got like 10 different kinds of honey sitting in my kitchen, right? So it's the animal that you most identify with. And a lot of people identify with snakes. They really do. They really are snake people. And then there's the whole, sorry guys, I'm having a hot flash, you know, menopause. What can I tell you? There's the whole, the people that study all the galactic stuff, the otherworldly, you know, out of this world stuff. There's a whole theory about the reptilian culture, you know, which, hey, listen, the things that I've seen happen and things that I can do myself within the world of psychic everything. Why are there not reptilians? Why aren't there little green men? Why aren't there little gray men, hot pink men, rainbow men, women, whatever? Again, not something I study, not something I'm really into, but if you're in for a penny, why can't you be in for a pound? So all of that said, your power animal is the animal that you call forth from inside of yourself when you are looking to accomplish something. And the reason I bring up all those, you know, the totem and the power animal when we're talking about the snake spirit animal is this. Not everything about snakes is warm and fuzzy. And not everybody who identifies with snakes are warm and fuzzy. There are some really evil people in this world. And just like the snake in the alleged Garden of Eden, it really can represent the purest evil that there is. And if you're going to work with snake energy, if you're going to call snake in as your spirit animal, and if you are going to identify with snake, if you are going to call snake forth as your power animal, I'm hoping that you're going to be very clear about what you intend. Meaning, let's say that you call snake in as your spirit animal and you have a scary experience. Well, instead of looking outside of you, maybe you should look inside of you. Are you a liar? Are you a cheater? Are you a thief? Are you just really not a good person? Are you a narcissist? Are you an abuser? I got news, really not very good people, and I mean not good to their core, practice metaphysics and the occult and all those kinds of things. They do. It's not just people who work in the light. So I have a friend who was a compulsive liar for all the years of his life until he started working in the world of metaphysics. And he was faced with all of his darkness, and it brought him past his knees. He said to me, he said, I've always known I've done it. I know why I did it. I just, you know, I was afraid. I never wanted to tell people no. I always meant what I said at the time. And then but I knew I couldn't, I knew I couldn't deliver. I would tell people what they wanted to hear. He said, and in fairness, I got really good at manipulating people. Really, really good at manipulating people, and I would do it on purpose to get what I wanted. And my heart just went out to him, because what a thing to face about yourself. What a thing to admit to someone else about yourself. And I really believe that he has healed himself of that. I think if this person told me the moon was made of cream cheese, I'd run out and I'd get our favorite crackers and I'd show up and go, let's go. Maybe I'll bring a bucket of chives too, or some strawberries, you know. But, you know, if you have an experience where you have a poisonous snake show up, let's say you get bit and you get sick, that could be a sign that the poison that's inside of you that you've been spreading around, it's time to hook your fangs over a glass and drain yourself of that stuff forever, right? Let's say that you are calling forth your power animal and you want it to be a snake. You know, I wish I could tell you differently, but I do know people that call forth the aggressiveness of snakes, the nasty, absolutely remorseless, I assume, remorseless, you know, because animals don't just mess with you to mess with you. They're usually defending themselves, or they're afraid of you. I find it very hard to believe that animals just lash out and try to kill you just for the sake of trying to kill you. But if you are, you know, perpetrating bad things on the world, humanity, the environment, the animal kingdom, you know, you may want to call on snake energy. It's a powerful energy. And in a lot of Hispanic cultures, they use it as protective energy. And oh my God, don't even get me into the whole Santeria thing and voodoo and how they utilize snake energy and this and that. And I'm just not into that. I think it's some super bad juju that you are creating for yourself. You're just making the bad energy vortex that you're creating around yourself by already doing bad things. And now you're going to add the worst possible components, the most negative, destructive components of whatever animal energy you're working with, and with one of the most feared, destructive animals that there are, snakes. And there are people that will argue with me that they're not destructive, and they're not, by and large. It's not like if you're probably not going to have an infestation of snakes like you would say, oh, infestation of sugar ants or cockroaches, right? Okay. But you see where I'm going with this. Okay. I really wish you wouldn't do that. My opinion probably means absolutely nothing to you. But I just really wish that you would not call on snake as your power animal to do negative things, because you are ultimately harming yourself. You don't know it yet, but that will catch up to you. That energy, that electricity that you're creating around yourself, you are going to get an ass whooping. You are going to get an ass whooping one day. And it's going to be big, if not bigger, than the crap you've created. There's that. If it is your totem animal, I hope that you will have the courage, you will find the courage to face the shadow side of snake within yourself when the time is right, and start to button that up, stitch it up, heal it up, get rid of it, purge it, move past it, go ascend higher, be the higher version of that, which is why Scorpio is the only sign that has 3 levels to it, 3 animals that are attached to it, because Scorpio is the sign of ascension and transformation to that degree, culminating in the eagle, interestingly enough, but starting with the snake. So that said, if you are calling forth your spirit animal, you know, I have a client. But she wonders why she can't stay in a long-term relationship, because she can't stay out of bed with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Harriet, and Susie, and anybody else that comes along. She just can't, she can't find a way to be monogamous, which is fine. Who cares? As long as you're not promising, you haven't promised someone else, I'm true to you. That's a problem. But she cannot bring herself to lead a polyamorous lifestyle, because in her mind, she doesn't want to be polyamorous. In the rest of her, she wants to be polyamorous. And she doesn't want what people would think about her and what the whole lifestyle could entail. You know, it's just this never-ending psychological wow with her. And she did a spirit animal meditation one time and called me in absolute hysterics because a horrifying snake came to her. And this snake had like 9 heads. It was like a Hydra, but like Hydra meets Dracula, meets this, meets that. It sounded scary. I'd have probably been freaked out too. But as we uncovered the rest of what happened in that meditation, it was such a clear sign from the animal kingdom that you are harming yourself, and you're harming all of the other people that you promise that you're going to be monogamous with, but can't. Not that she won't, she just can't. And I know there's argument for that. If you really want something, you can, and you'll find a way, and la la. I get it. But I had 2 little Debbie oatmeal pies last night when I didn't even need 1, but I love them, and I had 2. And then I spent an hour beating myself up for it. Eventually, you know, I'll get past the sugar thing that I have, hopefully. But you know, listen, if we all could change for the better like that, the world would be paradise. So no judging, no judging. Okay. So I hope that when you work with spirit, totem, and power animal energy with snake, you'll be open to facing the things inside of yourself that may be very shadowy, that you want to heal, or face the things inside of yourself that you don't even recognize. You don't recognize. I've got another acquaintance. She's an acquaintance. I would never call this person friend ever. In her mind, she's always right. My God, it doesn't matter what kind of evidence is in front of this person. She has a shut-off valve in her head that simply will not allow her to acknowledge or see when she's wrong. And she's one of the most narcissistic, manipulative people I have ever encountered in my life. There isn't anything that she touches at all that ever is positive. She is the dominatrix of destruction. And she just won't see it. And we all have those things inside of ourselves. For me, oh my gosh, my whole life, people have told me how intimidating I am. I didn't intend to be intimidating. I didn't, but I was. Now I understand why people perceive me that way. And it took an astrologer friend of mine to open me up to, if I look at somebody and I'm like, see how my eyes changed and my face changed? That's scary. That's a little scary. But being a triple Scorpio and also being a snake in the Chinese zodiac, there's a power that comes, a largesse that comes from within inside of me, that I can say, I told you no. Or I can say, I told you no. And people are going to recoil like I hit them with that whip. Whereas another person might scream at them, I told you no. And they laugh at them. There are so many things that go into making us who we are. And only we can decide that, you know, what we want to be like. And the reason I'm going on and on and on about this component of it is I'm talking about snake as a spirit, totem, and power animal, snake medicine, snake energy, snake symbolism and meaning, all of those things. And all animals should go that deep, right? There's everything about them should be that meaningful and that deep. But when you've got the world's most feared animal, it creates an energy vortex. It creates an energy mass that is so huge that I promise you the sloth does not share the same kind of energetic matrix around it. It just doesn't, as much as we all love sloths, right? Okay. So it's important to get a deeper, broader understanding of this. Now, snake in the Western, Scorpio in the Western zodiac is a water sign. And in the Chinese zodiac, you have the 5 elemental snakes. You have wood, you have water, you have metal, you have fire, and air. And depending on what year you were born in, if your birth date falls in a snake year, you're going to be one of the 5 elements, the five Chinese elements. But because in shamanic culture and Western culture, Western zodiac being aligned with Scorpio, yes, snake is a fire symbol, but because of its association with Scorpio, it can also be a water symbol, which is all about the feels, the feels. Oh my God, the feels. And that does lead back to Scorpio because, you know, snakes and scorpions, we can look pretty badass on the outside, but we're also the same people that need to hear I love you 5,000 times a day. Because the only thing that we're looking for is the perfect unconditional love, because that's what we give. And we just will blow through people and situations constantly searching for that. It's not the greatest way to be in the world, but you know, listen, you are what you are, and you're who you chose to be in this lifetime to learn or be part of, you know, a much larger contract or story or whatever. So understanding these things about yourself can really help you in a lot of different ways. Now, how I resolved the "you are so intimidating" thing is I stopped for decades. I tried to turn myself into somebody that I wasn't. And I found myself having to think before I said something, or modify my own behavior so much that I started being like this. And I wouldn't show people when I was angry. I wouldn't show them when I was hurt. I wouldn't share with them when, you know, even when I deeply loved or was deeply moved or whatever, I just didn't feel like, you know, I wanted to overwhelm them. And finally, one day, a good shamanic friend of mine turned around and said, "Why are you hiding all of that power? What good is it doing you or anybody else?" And she said, "Have you ever turned around to anybody and said, 'You big puss, you big wimp'?" I was like, well, boyfriends. You know, and if I'm coaching somebody on something, you know, the occasional, okay, this is the time to put your big girl panties on. This is the time to put your big boy panties on. Yes, but never. And so she was like, well, that's all they've done with you is tell you not to be as big and powerful as you are. She said, "How's that working for you?" And I said, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I've always hated it. She said, "Then stop trying to be responsible, Miss Control Freak, for how other people act, react, see you, don't see you." That cured me of that right then. So much so that I went to a psychic or mediumship development class with the amazing Mavis Patilla, and I had several people, we did demonstrations, and I did an inspired talk about spirit animals. And I had several people come up to me after my talk and go, "Your energetic field was so big and so powerful that I felt like it was literally physically pushing me back. I wanted to move to the back. I wanted to move to the back of the room because it was too much for me." And I said, "Isn't that cool?" And I said, "Thank you." And that wasn't what they meant. You should have seen the look. They're like, "Whoa." They didn't know what to think. And off to lunch I went because I wasn't going to be responsible for that. That's their problem, if it was indeed a problem. So calling on snake as a spirit totem and power animal really does require you to be sure that you are ready for and willing to deal with the lightest of light energy, very angelic-like, very God-like, very, you know, very universal source, whatever name you give the energetic, whatever it is that, you know, runs this hot mess. But you're also ready, willing, and able to deal with the darker components of it. Now, the Hopis talk about a winged snake. And when you get into Native American symbolism, you know, the snake is a never-ending major, it's like one of the Native Americans' major symbols for all things, you know, like in the Aztec, I think it was Quetzalcoatl that is the feathered serpent, the god of the evening star. There's, again, the Hopi tribe with a winged snake. Other North American Indian tribes think of snake as a rain giver, which of course associates it with the earth or the water element. But then in the world of the Celts, they've got a more shamanic way of looking at things, and they were all about the eyes that glaze over and that whole kind of catatonic, hypnotic state that it goes into. And then we've talked a little bit about snake dreams and snake zodiac and that kind of thing. So if you are moving ahead with all of this, then I can tell you that one of the more powerful things that you can do to call snake energy into your life, if you already know you want to work with the energy, is just find pictures of snakes that you particularly resonate with, the type of snake, the color of snake, the position of the snake, and just keep them by your bed. Some people will keep them under their pillows as they dream. If you don't want the more, or if you don't want the darker aspects to come in, you can certainly, whenever you're asking for your animal spirit to come to you, or you're open to the world of spirit animals, and snake decides that based on the circumstances in your life at the moment, people, places, things, situations, that it needs to show up for you, well, you can ask for the dark not to be shown, or ask for the dark to be more benevolent or more gentle. I wish I could tell you that happens, that they accommodate all the time, but they don't. And it's possible they don't, because really in your spirit, what you want is to get it over with. You just want to face it and get it over with. So all of that said, again, on the other side of that, snakes are some pretty amazing creatures. Reptiles are pretty amazing creatures that I will now say I think are highly misunderstood. They're feared far more than they should be. And I hope that you'll find your way past that, because such an animal ally to have, I wish that for everybody when the time is appropriate for them. So again, I'm Bernadette. I am the creator and channel of the Arc Animal Oracle and Tarot deck. If you don't have yours, I hope you'll consider getting it. Yes, that's a sales pitch, but honestly, if you're working with animal spirit guides, there isn't another deck out there. Well, first of all, I'm one of the only 2 decks that use images of real animals, because I wanted you guys to be able to see them and experience them and look deeply into their real eyes, not just a painting or a portrait. Not knocking them. There are some of the most beautiful animal decks out there. I have them all. If there's an animal deck out there that I don't have, it's because someone is producing it out of their basement and selling it out of their basement. If it's online or in a store, I got it. But it's a really great way. A lot of you are never going to meet a koala bear. A lot of you are never going to see a starfish. A lot of you are never going to see a weasel in real life. A lot of you are never going to see a hippo in real life. And you have the ability to connect with the animals and become part of the animals. In Game of Thrones, Bram is the kid that can go into that, his eyes blaze like a snake, and he gets inside of the animal. A warg is what they call it. I can't believe I've seen that 9 billion times. It's only happened to me a few times, but I have been in I have been in spirit animal meditations. I can tell you what it's like to be a dolphin. The most unexpected animal for me to show up, but I climbed right inside of that dolphin, and I know what it's like to swim through the seas and the oceans. I know what it feels like. No wonder humans aspire. No wonder animals are the icons of sports teams and companies. We should ever have half the abilities that animals do. We could be such an astounding species. We could really be quite something. So you have the ability to connect like that. If you choose the ability to connect with snake like that, make sure that you set your intentions and that you're not out, running amok in the world, doing things that you ought not to be doing. Make sure that you're doing the things that you should be doing. And yes, I'm telling you what you should and shouldn't do in this one instance, which is use the very best of snake and its symbolism and its meanings and its power and its energy and its medicine and all of those things. Make sure that you're using the best of that, because in turn, you'll be doing the best for yourself. So that's it. I hope this was helpful. Please write me if you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I will see you next time. But what's the most important thing, everybody? To stay wild.